Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be reviewing All For What by A Broken Silence. Released in 2009, this band was new to me. It was recommended to me by a viewer, so thank you for that. But I had zero impressions of this album or this band going into this thing. I had not heard of them before, but right away they gained my attention. If you don't know, like I didn't, A Broken Silence is an Australian rock rap kind of like nu metal band, very much giving me like Linkin Park vibes, which was pleasantly well done, honestly. Strong hip hop elements that are executed very nicely. The rock aspects are incorporated beautifully, and although I enjoyed it, I just don't know if this particular type of sound is as timeless as it should be, which is unfortunate, really. I mean, it could come back, you never know. But for this band particularly, it could just be due to the massive success of Linkin Park. I could see many fans feeling like they just live in the shadow of their predecessors, even though overall I feel like the storytelling and just the overall production kind of surpasses Linkin Park in a lot of ways, especially their early work, but I digress. As far as the content of the music, it's extremely personal. I mean, I don't know them obviously, but it's very emotional, very meaningful and well crafted, very much speaking on government and the darkness surrounding the war-torn areas at the time, but also speaking just kind of on the grander idea of people's perception of standards, most of which remains extremely relevant today. Like the first track, for example, Are You Not Entertained, really sounds like it could have been made within the last 5 years, where they sort of take a stance against mindless music. Just the power of the message in this first track really resonates today, even with the line, popularity increases if you fail to function. Intelligence equates to sales of nothing. I reminisce on tapes that were laced with substance. Also going on about a number of other social or political issues in a very honest and respectable way, which really leads perfectly to the next track, Run a Check, which is sort of presented in almost like a warning, saying that the world government is unfurling and that we know who controls it all, but declaring we're not ready for what comes next, which really feels like a weird prediction given what has happened in the years that followed the album's release. The album's title track, All For What, came as a shock for me. Usually title songs just aren't the best, but this track details two separate stories of greed and tragedy. One getting murdered for money and the other snitching on his crew and then getting murdered for that. The track just has a very wild presentation all around. The two tracks that follow that follow a similar theme of do your own thing, be yourself, do what you gotta do, find success type of a message. I didn't care for The Pinnacle as much, but Rat Race was really, really good. While listening, it almost felt like I've heard it before, and I mean, I could have at some point, I suppose. But the way the lead vocalist handles his voice on this song is just very beautiful to me. Easily a favorite from the record. And the track, if you didn't know, is pretty intense. Really laying some things out about the wars of the time. It has a really dark tone, but I really enjoy how they did this track. And the feature just had a really uniting effect on the song. And the next song, Every Day, is kind of like a lyrical miracle, but it has some intensely personal content, it seems, where they detail coming from doing bad things to making music and just trying to keep a straighter head on. It's not bad, it's just honestly not my favorite. But moving on to By Your Laws, the first half is about a man whose life is kind of going downhill, falling apart, maybe already has. He's just getting out of prison. Nobody wants him to come home. The police don't want him in the area. His wife's divorcing him. He can only see his 3 kids on the weekends. It's all very tragic and heartbreaking. And then they tell the wife's perspective, expressing her thought process between feeling like she should stand by her troubled husband and feeling like her husband failed her, saying she rips her ex's mail up and says my boys can't eat a letter. I really just enjoy perspective songs like this. Joyner Lucas does it a lot, and he just does really good with putting music videos with them. He's a rapper, so I know it's kind of a weird connection, but he's really just kind of the king of doing things like that. But this was really, really well done. Next is The Road Is Lost. It's a very touching track about the wars and children forced to enlist in these areas. I really enjoy the realistic thought process they provide, alluding to rebelling against a force that just shows you how expendable you are. Following that, the song This Nation is crazy. The lyrical performances are just awesome. The feature kills it, just straight spitting facts on this one. Very empowering to listen to, and it's just a really introspective take on government and history. And on There They Go, the boys tell the future once again. Not really, but when listening to this track, it's just really insightful for even today's society. The opening verse, he says, why the privileged waste and those in despair make the best in life? What separates those with lesser drive and the rest that shine? Why do some rise up in testing times, some are less inclined? And I just feel like this really correlates today still. still. There's always a string of people who rise up in the craziest times, some for the better and some for the worse, but these people are driven. Clearly, you know, they're hungry. The people that are just successful in general. I just feel like a certain type of person sees an opportunity and blows it up. I don't know, it's just very interesting to me. But the song is just very uplifting and beautifully written and produced. I really enjoyed the strumming on the low parts of the instrumental on this track. This track is just very beautiful. And finally, the honestly pretty damn good outro song, Take This Mirror. It has slow strumming but kind of a fast-paced percussion on it. And the radio effect on the vocals throughout this song are just very fitting. And the way I perceive the song is that we are what's now. We are the purpose of life, essentially. It contains some hard truths and realities of life, but ultimately says, if it's hard to see where we are now, take this mirror. Overall, this project was very, very enjoyable. It really took me back in a way, not just historically, but like nostalgically. As I mentioned already, the overall sound just kind of reminded me of Linkin Park and that era of music, which I really enjoyed actually. I know I keep saying today as if this album is really that old at all, but it's been 15 years and a lot has happened and escalated in these 15 years, which just provides a really interesting perspective when you're thinking about that while listening to it. My top 5 songs are There They Go, Rat Race, Take This Mirror, By Your Laws, and All For What. And that's all for this video, guys. Thank you again for the recommendation. Leave a like and a comment down below. Shout out to A Broken Silence. Surely they watch the channel. And don't forget to subscribe.